You give it to them for 30 years. By the time the second phase comes in, it's not going to be a parking lot. It's going to be something that will put major dollar bills in his pocket. And we're left with a $26,000 stipend on a piece of property that Norco could create millions of dollars in revenue. So I really hope you guys reconsider this, and best case, give it to him for a year. Like I said, if he's just going to leave it as dirt, I'll go down with my little tractor and I'll level it off for him for free. 1 year, maybe 2 at the most. But don't give it to him for 30, because mark my words, we might all be dead, but mark my words, in 4 years, he's going to come back with us, asking for a CUP to put a hotel or put something gigantic on it. Why? He's got a 30-year lease, and we're stuck going, we get 26,000 bucks. Let's look at things in a perspective and a right way. Let's go after the money. Let's not just hand over something that we all know in a year is going to be extremely valuable. Thank you.
So I'd like to go back to the master plan developed by, prepared for Bellstar on here. It notates the area for RV campground and trailer parking. And if you note on here, 2,715 parking spaces. I didn't write that, someone else did. In addition to that, we've also put in a wash on the other side because that's going to be used for additional parking. And on top of that, he now wants to take the 8 acres that we had talked about being a campground, a park, potentially a hotel, when we're going to give it to RJ for 30 years, that's crazy. I'll tell you what, so he's got 2,700 parking spaces, unless that's changed on his plan now, and that means there needs to be a new report then, if the parking does not compensate that. And he's got the parking over across the street, because that was a big seller on getting the whole street built and the improvements done, right? So we've got that. That would seem like quite a bit of parking, and we're not going to have the park anymore or the campground that people can come camp out, because now it's going to be RJ's additional parking spaces. How many parking spaces does this place need? It's not Disneyland. I'll tell you what. I'll lease it for $27,000 a year, right now. I'll give you $27,000. And we'll go from there. In 12 months, we'll talk. Because this is ridiculous. And it's probably a done deal already. I hope somebody's looked at this contract, the lease agreement. I didn't have time to review the whole thing, but when I was looking at it, it's very tenant leaning. Doesn't help Norco out any. But it's going to help out RJ a whole bunch. What are we getting out of this whole thing now? Things have changed too much on this project for us to really find any credibility in this anymore. We're getting fed piece by piece after the fact, after plans have already been done. We need to see some consistency and some transparency, and we're getting it after everything's done. Thank you.
Well, now, I did read the whole contract, and it was 36 pages. Yes, I just have a few questions that I'd like to know. I'd like to know who wrote the contract for this. How long has it been in negotiations? Why haven't we heard anything about this? Where's the transparency for this council? It looks like somebody's trying to sneak something in on us here, and I really don't think it's fair. What about the EIR? Has there been an EIR in this process? I haven't seen it. I saw the EIR on 122 acres. but I didn't see one on the 8 acres, which I also think that the lease is excessive, 99 years. My God. They gave a 99-year lease to Hong Kong. Why do we have to give one to RJ? Another thing is, you have a parking lot, you have certain requirements you have to have. You have to have 100% compaction on a parking lot. And if you're not gonna put anything in this parking lot of a surface to create that compaction, the first rain, you're gonna have a mud hole. I know one of my friends wanted to use some property on Hamner. He was told he had to bring the property up to grade to create parking and a drivable surface. They denied him the use permit. This area here, I think that the city should keep it for themselves. I don't see any reason why they should lease this to RJ or the Balboa Company, especially with the low amount which has already been established. This is a big contract. Somebody worked very hard on this and spent a lot of time on it, but now all of a sudden we're seeing it for the first time on Monday and you want to vote on it on Wednesday. I think you should take it off the agenda for further discussion and consideration. I think there's too many factors that are going on here for this to be a sudden decision. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Sandy?
Good evening. Pretty much everything I think or wanted to say has been expressed and said. Personally, I'm real upset that this is the first we're hearing of it. Like Lou said, it sounds like an awful lot of work has gone in and a lot of planning and contracts written. This should be a community topic. It should be open to a lot of discussion, that we explore all of the options and all of the scenarios. $26,000 a year is $2.97 an hour. And like Mr. Leonard said, it's an insult to what the potential of that property is. Or if we decide to go the other way and serve our community with a campground, with a riding stable, with a safe place to come in and out of the trail system. But I also ask that we please pull this from tonight. I do not want to see this voted on or approved or moved forward with. It needs a lot more thought, a lot more consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Marna? Did I say it right that time?
All right, I also would like to ask that this be pulled from the agenda to give the citizens more opportunity to read this contract. I have read the whole thing. I'm sorry, but shame on you, all of you. This is insane. We could do so much more with this. I have been told, and I will not name names, by 2 city council people, that RJ has every intention of building a hotel and a sit-down restaurant. So this parking lot stuff, this is a bunch of smoke and mirrors. I'm not happy about that. By the way, the 6,000 parking spaces that RJ has on the prospectus brochure, I think that's plenty. As far as the money, I agree with everybody else. It's an insult. And you know what? I'm too angry to even say anything, but I do want to say something to you, Andy. I know it's made out to be a monster. I totally agree that you deserve every penny you get, even more and the best thing that has ever happened to Norco. I don't know, maybe if,
That's another item, thank you.
okay, if the guy spent money wiser, we could afford to pay him what the hell he deserves.
Thank you. Lisa Campbell,
Good evening. I think pretty much everybody's covered what I wanted to say, but piggybacking on Bob, I wonder, in those 8 acres, how many parking spots you could get, and at $10 a car, he'd probably make $26,000 in one day. So leasing the property to him for $26,000 a year is insane, like everybody else said. And then my other question is, the EIR is for 122 acres. So when you add this 8 acres in, what does that do to it? Does it make it null and void? That would be an answer, or answered by the attorney. But I think that's something we need to look at. The EIR was based on rehabbing a house on the property, which is no longer there. So the more you change it, the more you jeopardize that EIR, and I think that's something you really need to take into consideration. Thank you.
thank you. Robin Cozell,
Good evening.
uh,
As you know, I'm not one to get up here and speak very often. But what I think you should do with this property, turn it into a park, dig a hole, put a fish pond in it, and have a stable down there. And whatever you do, let the citizens of Norco have it. Don't give it away for $2,000, because that's what you're doing. And it's a perfect location for a park, and it's adjacent to all that other property down there for riding. And I know for a fact that the prices, the kids anyway, would love to have it back and put a stable there. You folks need to think about the citizens of this town. You all talk about horses. We need a good riding stable that has good exposure. I can't imagine anything better than Hamner Avenue. That is a perfect place for a park. 8 acres, take a D9 tractor down there. You don't even have to fill it full of water. The water table is there. It's going to fill up anyway. Put some fish in it, let the little kids go fishing. You don't need to be giving it away for $2,000. Because 30 years from now, when he renews it for another 99 years, we're still going to be out. That is a perfect place for a park, bar none. There is no other area in this city that has the ambiance that 8 acres does. Please consider the citizens and our lifestyle. That will promote it. A parking lot won't. Thank you.
all right, Kevin, you're up first.
You know, it's interesting. I'm sitting next to the founder of the NHA, Nart. I'm sitting next to somebody that raised some beautiful horses. I'm sitting next to somebody who was in the Horsetown Hall of Fame. I'm sitting to someone like myself who's ridden Norco's trails for decades and decades. I own a very large boarding stable. Harvey, he started the Mustang Makeover Challenge. Frank Hall, he helped form Crowd 32, one of the first riding groups in Norco. How anyone can think we aren't thinking equestrian is beyond the ken. It's ridiculous. One of the bad things about Facebook is people make up their histories. You're looking at 200 years of equestrian riding, 200 years easily. So any project that comes before us, we're looking out for horses. What's being built there is the largest equestrian sports park in the Northern Hemisphere. No, that's not true. Now, I'm sorry, it's not true. Clearly, you haven't been to San Juan Capistrano, you don't understand the model. I'm not gonna argue with you, but you're wrong. Flat out wrong. So anyway, I think the man needs parking. And you put a riding stable down there, there are other plans for things in other areas. And so I personally think that, I don't think you can build a hotel there because you can't get the EIR. I've really looked hard at that to see what would happen. But let's say worst case scenario, a hotel gets built. Who gets the revenue without building the hotel? I've shown people where the riding arenas are going. I've shown people where you're going to have your large building with your indoor arena. I have to support this because we have to move the project forward. One of the things, and I'm just going to say it, is there's a group of people that want to kill this project. It's not going to happen at this point. It cannot happen at this point. We have to move forward. This developer is putting millions of dollars into this. Do you realize next year it's very possible we may get paid back the 5.7 we invested in this, which means we own the property. They're putting $1 million per field into that. Plus, you have all of the equestrian arenas on the other side. I keep telling people, the grass, just like San Juan, just like San Juan. One day you're playing soccer, the next day you're playing polo, the next day you're doing hunter jumper. I've seen it. So I have to support this, and you know, I just think it's what we have to do at this point. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think that we need to move forward with this project here. The riding stable down there, if it belonged to the city, is too much liability. We have 2 riding stables already in town, rent stables. They seem to be doing okay. When a stable was down there before, that was the biggest environmental nightmare that there ever was. And with floods and water and everything like that, if you have horses down there, you really have to really keep up with it and keep it out of the water. I don't believe that a hotel will ever fly down there because it takes too long to get an environmental study on it. So I think we just need to move forward with it.
Greg?
I certainly understand the economic benefit to the city on this. Focusing on the success of the project, you know, I've considered this, and that yes, there could be this symbiotic relationship between additional parking to the Silverlakes project. I get that, okay? But what my gut tells me is this is not a good project for us. That if the parking would help, I'm open to the scenario of 12 months, 24 months, short-term lease, possibly with an option, and see how that works. Some of my concerns are, though, this may be premium land in the future, may not be premium land in the future. I know it's flood zone, but who knows what's going to happen down the road 1-5 years from now. Right now we're renting this out for $270 an acre per month, which is the same price that we leased the 122 acres at. And what concerns me is on a 30-year lease that we're basically selling this property for $780,000. And this is just not a good deal. I'm open to staff re-looking at this and come back with maybe a 1-year proposal on the parking or 24 months. I'd like to also know potential on parking stalls, and would we get $1 or $2 off of that? That maybe should be some consideration there. Maybe not if it would help move the project forward. But it is the wrong thing to do to lease this for 30 years. This is what I look at, that it's our future, it's the city's future, it's the residents' future. And face the facts, it's not going to be a parking lot in 30 years. It's going to be moved forward, and our kids won't benefit from that. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to comment on these 8 acres and all the history of living here and all the years that Ray Price rented the property. I think he paid about $1,000 a month rent. $1,000. So all those years, we made $12,000 a year on that property. And since Ray's wife decided not to renew the lease, we've made zero money on that property. The difference now is that property has that same value, except the reason it doesn't, and the reason why all of you are concerned that the property has value, is for one reason only, and that's because Silverlakes is coming. That is why that property has value now, because Silverlakes is coming. And I was just on the property last week, and the horse trails are throughout the property. You go look, all the white vinyl fencing is all coming in. The first equestrian events are going to be held in January. They should be completed around the holidays, which is why they're going to start in January. The clubhouse, and I know some of you didn't support, has a restaurant on the top that has glass windows that go around the entire thing. And that will be a restaurant comparable to a yard house. That restaurant, because of the 6,000 parking spaces, which comes to having approximately 12,000 people there, will probably become the most profitable restaurant in the Inland Empire. What's going to make Horsetown, USA prevail into perpetuity in this town, so I can still live on a half-acre lot, so all of us can have 130 miles of horse trails, is something that's going to be an economic engine in this town, and that's Silverlakes. It is our future. It is the only way. We don't have Walmarts. We don't want them. Some of us do. We don't want Home Depots. We don't want apartments, and we do not want condominiums, and we want to maintain Horsetown, USA. So what we have to do is find a way to generate money into our town, and Silverlakes is the key to keeping Horsetown into perpetuity. Silverlakes Projects needs this land to continue on. They do not, it's easy for us to say, how do we know? We're not the business person. We haven't invested $40 million of our own dollars to say that we think 6,000 parking spaces are enough. How does any one of us in this room know that for a fact? How do we validate that we know how many parking spaces he needs? Clearly, he needs them. Clearly, he's willing to pay the same amount of money that he's paid for the rest of the property. And if he needs it, and we have all been so frustrated that Silverlakes has taken this long because we want the economic revenue that we're going to get from it. He needs to move ahead. I don't know why we would want to delay this project any further, and I don't know why this land is only going to have value because of him, and without him, again, the land is $1,000 a month or zero, which is what it's done the last 30 years in Marco. So I do support this, this agreement.
For a week, I've been talking to staff about this and reviewing past documents and the success of Silverlakes. Do I think Silverlakes is going to live or die on this 8 acres? Hell no. Not one thing. It's going to go forward. I specifically asked staff, is there enough, and I'm just very, is there enough parking spots on Silverlakes for the amount of events participation that they're going to have without the 8 acres? And I was told, yes, there is. There's enough parking already. Do I agree with that? I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't. I truly, I don't have a clue. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm not about to give up the 8 acres because I don't know. But what I will do is, I want the city to still own it. Because I believe in staff when they tell me that they have enough parking spots. And until we decide what we want to do with the 8 acres, he can lease it on a month-by-month basis.
Amen.
That's not going to slow him down. He's going to still go forward with his plans. With equestrians next year, that's what he's telling me. Equestrians next year. That's great. That's what I'm hoping for. And ultimately, you need capital. You need to pay your bills. So you need something fast to pay bills. Well, that's soccer. It gets a lot of participation, a lot of entry fees, and a lot of tax dollars really fast. And in the meantime, maybe he can shuffle some large equestrian events from the Oaks down in San Juan. I don't know if he wants to. I truly don't. I think he did at one time when he bought it. But I don't know if the interest is still there. I'm not speaking for him. I don't know. I don't have a clue. But what I do have a clue about is I'm not about to give up the last 8 acres that we've got that can be a trailhead or an overnight parking or a drop-off spot to get onto our trails, because there is nothing left on that river. Nothing that is that big, that is flat, that can be used, as Rob says. And if he needs additional, and this was a discussion that I had with staff, do you think there'd be any problem leasing it on a monthly basis based on an overflow capacity? And they don't have an answer to that. Because they haven't talked to him yet to see if he'd be interested in it. I'm not denying the man access. I'm restricting the access based on need. That's all. So would I love to say, okay, I'm quoting now. I will quote. I'm going to charge $20 a car for people that want to park in premier parking spots on Silverlakes. $20 a car. If they want to be shuttled from Ingalls or one of the other off-sites, they'll be paying $8 to $10. Okay, that's fine. Then why can't we set it up to where we get $4 a car? If he's going to charge 20, then his lease can be $4 a car for everyone that parks on that 8 acres. So we're not restricting them until we decide what we're going to do. And are we going to do something equestrian? Eventually, but I'm not going to give it up now when there may be a possibility later on to do something equestrian. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not restricting him either. So, and I'm taking staff word that there is enough parking already. Then they even pointed out where all the parking is. And I don't know if I agree with them or disagree with them. I just think that it's going to be pretty congested there. But that's not my call. It's not my master plan. But it is my 8 acres. And my answer is no. You can't have it. If there's no other comments or questions,
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm just a little confused with this recommendation in the staff report that says that the staff approves the lease agreement with Balboa Management Group for the 8 acres. And then you've said, Mayor, several times that the staff says there's plenty of parking, so I'm a little confused. Is there two, or do we have staff in disagreement, or? I guess I need clarification on that, Andy.
I can answer that question. We met with the mayor sometime during the week, and one of the questions that the mayor asked was the number of parking spaces that exist on the Silverlakes property. I believe the answer that was given by the planning director was that question, the answer to that question was not known at the time. I don't know if there were subsequent conversations with respect to definitely saying that there was X number of spaces, and yes, those number of spaces were enough. Steve, I think you were in the meeting, Brian, you were in the meeting. The staff did not make specific reference to.
Be careful.
But
I'm
again,
telling you, be careful. Because I'm gonna pin somebody down. If you make that comment, I'm gonna pin somebody down on exactly what they said.
again,
Call the question.
Call for the question. Is there a vote for the question? You have to take a vote for the call. Take a roll call for the call of the question. By Robert's Rule of Order.
Azevedo,
Yes.
Bash,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Newton.
No, it's a call for the question. No motion, it's to call for the question, you need a majority vote to call for the question, and there is a majority present, so therefore we will have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second.
Azevedo,
Yes.
Bash,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Higgins,
No!
Newton.
No.
Motion passes.
Should we take a 10-minute break? Give everybody a rest for a minute?
People say you care about us.
That was Kevin's How was Alaska?
I don't know what happened.
How's your house? You're a national treasure. Yes. You're going everywhere. National. All right. The one in the black hat sitting next to the lady in the stripe. That's not.
I see her street. I see her in her front yard all the time.
That's the one we saw.
I can't go until
Us Joe and Joe.
That's who?
That you brought Home Depot, hometown to pay that.
I pick it up.
Do you want me to carry it for you?
You have to have.
Still have to get it. Yep.
I mean, I can still carry it. Yeah, it is recent. Good girl.
And this is how much the city council listens to the public. Complete disregard for any of our recommendations and requests. And they had this already decided before they even showed up.
Hang on. Did you catch on? Did you learn any perspective? Hang in there. Did you see it's not all
Thank you. So you're doing the work. Thank you. Thank you. I know.
Oh, we sat there too long, Larry.
Yeah.
I need my, I got a cushion at home that I set over my chair and it keeps me from going haywire, you know.
Well, the good thing is if I screw up, they'll let me know. So yeah, you didn't get help. So what you're saying is that you made a bad investment.
Five B is a discussion of the vinyl fencing. Who's got this?
I do have this one, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. This is a discussion item regarding the use of vinyl track fence materials. At your direction on February 2, 2015, Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission met to consider the use of vinyl track fence material as an alternative to the wood fencing material that was previously being used. Following that meeting, the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission recommended the use of polyvinyl chloride, otherwise known as PVC, as the city's new neutral material for fence replacement. In addition to that recommendation from the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission, they also recommended that the new material be used on new track development, as well as on increments of 1,000 linear foot and above. They also recommended that this can be also done on intersection by intersection. On February 4th, 2015, the Director of Public Works made a verbal report to the City Council regarding the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission's recommendation. And following that report, the City Council voted to approve the recommendations from the Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission. The issue before you this evening is to consider whether the city should stick with the 1,000 feet threshold that was recommended by the Streets, Trails, Utilities Commission, or whether to consider a more shorter increments with respect to the implementation of the PVC material on city trails. There has been some discussion that reducing the length, minimum length requirement in order to install the PVC material might encourage residents to undertake trail fence replacement with respect to trails next to their property. And what staff is asking from the City Council is to relook at this, the recommendations from Streets, Trails, and Utilities Commission, and perhaps provide additional clarification as to the implementation of the PVC materials. With that, I conclude my remarks and take any questions. But again, this is for City Council discussion.
Does council have any questions of staff? I have no cards. Kathy?
Is it too late to submit a verbal card? Sorry. Is it too late?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
You can, normally, you need to have one filled out so that this doesn't happen.
Sorry.
On the subject of vinyl fencing, I'd like to suggest that maybe you guys look at some other cities that have used the vinyl fencing on the scale that we would B, installing vinyl fencing. Personally, I don't think that it's a good long-term solution for commercial applications. It's great for residential, not so good for commercial. I've sold it. I worked for my family's business, who was a fence contractor. We sold it. We sold commercial fencing, mostly commercial fencing, some residential. The vinyl residential that we did is great. Commercially, not so hot. So if we haven't taken a look at that, I would think that that would be wise. I know places like Gavilan Hills have used it. Temecula has some. We've seen it pop up in small amounts, but on a scale as grand as ours, I think we should probably look into that, because I don't think it's going to be a real good option. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else like to talk on that? All right. Kathy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to share with you, I asked to talk about this a little bit because I've had several residents that have been real excited about the white, and just so you know, the council did vote already to put in, to replace our wood fencing with vinyl fencing because it's so much more affordable and it's so much easier to see in the night. It's a safety issue. My biggest concern where I wanted to talk about this is I was really unclear when we made the motion that we'd also made the motion that you had a minimum of 1,000 feet to go in at one time. And there are some residents in town that would be willing to do it themselves and pay for it themselves because they really like the white vinyl fencing and they'd like to put it up, and then it's kind of gotten a little rally in the neighborhood. But the one person that I talked to, it would be him and his neighbor that want to do it, which would be about 200 feet. And then I was thinking, well, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to break it, you know, where there was contiguous pieces, of course. But I just feel like we should encourage residents that want to do it themselves and save us all that money. And the transfer over is going to be a little awkward. There's going to be some white and some of the other. And so I just think that maybe we should relook at requiring 1,000 feet because that's going to discourage any resident into wanting to help us by putting their own trail fencing in. I think maybe even 300, 400, 500. I mean, I just wanted the discussion if you guys agree that 1,000 is a little bit long.
I understand the 1,000-foot minimum, but I certainly support the segment to segment. If there would be a way to manage it, you don't want a patchwork quilt, like my house is wood, my next door neighbor's is vinyl. What's that number, I guess, is, so you don't have that patchwork scenario and still keep with the segment to segment. How would we look at that, or how would we determine that? As far as a discussion,
I don't know, that's why it definitely needs to be discussion, and I think that some streets, I almost think, I don't know, it would be a lot to ask the planning commission, but it's like some scenarios, or 1,000 feet, that could be a whole cul-de-sac, you know, that could actually go in, or those ones that have a half, and they put that in, and with 1,000 feet minimum, we would have to tell them no, the way this is written right now, if it's not 1,000 feet, you can't do it. So I don't know if we could do a case-by-case scenario, some of the streets that are shorter, some of the streets that are cul-de-sacs, some of the streets that are adjacent to the white fencing that we're already putting in, and then they would be contiguous. Gosh, if we put in 1,000 feet and the guy next to him says, hey, that looks so good, I want to put mine in and it's only 100 more feet, I think he should be able to if he's connecting to 1,000. So I just think that this 1,000 hard fast rule is not going to really work, and I think that will really save us money if we allow residents that say are part of are the next house of 1,000-foot segment that we put in. I support letting them buy their own, and it's just less money for us to spend, and it gets us moving, like we talk about moving forward with this new look that Norco's reaching out to have.
well, I support you on the segment to segment. I guess my problem is where we get subjective now as far as that, you know, one lot, two lots, but we can work with being subjective, so I'll support the segment to segment.
House to house?
Yeah, let's say corner to corner. Yeah, well, let's say there's 4 houses on your street, and you're not at 1,000 feet. So I would look at that as the segment to segment.
So what you're saying is if somebody, say there was 3 houses in a row on your street, Corona or mine, Temescal, we wouldn't let them do that unless it was the whole, from 5th to 6th?
Oh, no, I'd be fine with that. But let's say, where I think it gets silly is that if the guy in the middle didn't want to,
Yeah,
you'd go vinyl, wood, fine.
Right.
Okay?
It'd
And
have
if
to be
all
solid.
3, 4, 5, 6 neighbors want all vinyl, I'm okay with that segment to segment. The concern is it becomes subjective.
Well, I don't have a problem with that, but, I was wondering, down here in Old Town, where the streets are not as wide as they are in the rest of the town, when you put up a trail fence, and you gotta admit, some of them are pretty close to the edge of the street, and, that's why they get wiped out so much. And I was wondering over in Old Town, like, I think we did this on Willow and Valley View when we put that stop sign in, didn't we, Lori? At Valley View and Willow, then we just put in one little section and we went up to the other end of the street and put in another section. Why couldn't we do that in Old Town, and it would save us a lot of money, and it would still, when you turned the corner, you saw the white fence here, and down at the other end, you know you was on the horse trail side of the thing, because I know this PVC will come out in a hurry if it gets hit by a car, but you see all the broken fence posts and the rails and stuff up next to the road because the streets are so narrow, and when you've got like trash truck day and delivery trucks coming down through the streets and people are passing cars and everything, and they could wipe that out just as easy as they do the wood. So I think it would save us a lot of money, and it would still mark the trails where the trail was. I mean, that's just a thought.
During that discussion on the ad hoc committee, when we were talking about this vinyl fencing, we were discussing how it truly could be implemented. Because we can give a diagram or a building spec to the homeowner. Are they the ones that's going to put it in, or is the city going to put it in? Because I can see so many problems developing. So my question is, who would put it in? Yeah, Lori, go ahead.
It would be a contractor. If a homeowner wanted to have trail fence put in front of their property, they would have to have a licensed contractor put it in. I mean, because there are requirements when working in the public right of way.
Would that be prevailing wage then?
Well, we're not paying for it. It would be the homeowner paying for it. If
Well, then that becomes, yeah, you're shaking your head too, because, yeah, because the new standard, I would think it'd be prevailing wage.
but this person just wanted to call Dave Gonzalez over there and have him put it in.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, don't want it more complicated than it already is, but probably it's going to, since it's in public right away, that if a group of homeowners want to have it put in, they need to make an arrangement to pay the city and the city's contractor.
yeah, that's.
No, I didn't say, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about those legal issues.
I don't think prevailing wage would come if I, as a contractor, if I want to replace my drive approach, I'll go to the county and get an encroachment permit and hire a contractor. And I think this is what the homeowners want to do with the fencing.
Without getting, I mean, I'm not sure an argument we want to have, but this isn't replacing doing that. This is essentially putting in public facilities.
It's like all the residents that have put pavers
By the
in.
city, it's not private.
I think this is a good direction we ought to go. We can start paving our own streets. I think you're onto something, Barbara.
But anyway, my point being is we didn't think it was a good idea to put 100% fencing from start to finish. We didn't see a need for dual fencing in and out. Remember, we were trying to eliminate, cut back, and reduce the expenses by doing a quarter and then sporadically put that quarter down.
Correct.
And that's what we talked about in the ad hoc committee. So, I mean, and then it goes to what Greg and Kathy want to do. It could very easily be one resident that wants to do it, and then based on that scenario that come out of the ad hoc committee, that would be acceptable. One resident.
Correct. I mean, to clarify with Councilmember Azevedo and Councilmember Newton, the intent of the segment to segment was, yeah, so we didn't have the patchwork. If we have a 600-foot cul-de-sac and somebody said, you know, would they want to do that, that would qualify as a segment. It was just that you put it in front of your house, you have the PVC, your neighbor doesn't have it. The Streets and Trails Commission didn't want that, what they call the hodgepodge look. Now, the current project that is going to be under construction, when we did the linear footage on that, it wasn't, you know, you got an 80-foot frontage, it wasn't, will allow, you know, 20 feet for your drives and solid. It went, you got at least, if it could fit two sections, you got at least 16 foot. So it's going to be really difficult to give an actual number, because sometimes people do have wider driveways, there's a tree, there's a hydrant, you're not going to be able to put, you know, good, you know, 80 foot of frontage of trail fence. So it might only be two or three sections, and that's how we came up with the footage that we did for this current project, is we went out there and actually looked, you know, we can at least get two sections here. It's not solid. It's kind of sporadic. So yes, we would take it on a case-by-case basis, and let's say they did, the first three houses of a street did it, and the next one didn't. Well, if the next one wanted to add on, we wouldn't go, well, you're only doing 30 feet, so we're not going to allow you to do it, because it's building on to something. So yeah, we would be very, I mean, hey, if I don't have to have it put in and a resident wants to put it in, that saves me money. So I'm encouraging that. We just didn't want vinyl wood, vinyl wood, vinyl wood. So we're definitely in favor of if the residents really want to put the vinyl fence in. I have no objection to
a lot
that.
of the time.
Pardon me?
A lot.
Yeah, if four residents got together, if that was,
Remember, we didn't want to do 100%. So
Yeah,
that
but-
all three don't have to do it. If one in the middle doesn't want to do it, it doesn't have to be wood then. You take the wood out.
yeah, you could definitely take the wood out then. Like I said, and it's the commission that made the recommendation, is that they just didn't want, you know, alternating pieces of fencing, or you wanted to put one in and you still had wood over here. It was just, they wanted to build into the city, and they knew it would take time, start in one area and kind of travel with and stuff. But yeah, the intention, I mean, if a homeowner wants to put solid and they're paying for it across their whole frontage except that they're two driveways, I'm not gonna say no, but it's not required.
It says, determine if the 1,000-foot minimum requirement should be maintained. So right now, there is, that's what people are being told, but that's what's coming from City Hall, there's a 1,000-foot minimum requirement. That's what's being told to the residents.
Or segment to segment. If you look in the minutes of the Streets and Trails, it was, or the segment to segment. And that was the, you know, if you have a 600-foot cul-de-sac, we're not gonna say, well, you can't put it in because it's not 1,000 feet.
So it's very,
It's very,
okay.
Well, the way this was written right now, the way it was explained to residents is it's 1,000 feet minimum. I just wanted to make.
The way it was described to residents is this 1,000-foot minimum, and I just wanted to talk to council if we really felt strong about that, and maybe this needs to be written or maybe clarified. Clarified.
She added, you said in the minutes that it was segmental, rather than 1,000 feet. So we're good if she adds that to it.
It's old stuff.